Hi guys, it's Maya here. I hope you're all doing well and keeping in social isolation and staying healthy and entertained in some way. Today I wanted to make an interesting video that I thought would be interesting from a societal and psychological perspective, and that is the difference from living as a boy versus living as a girl. Now, if you're new to my channel, hi, welcome. I am Maya. I am a trans girl. So what that means exactly is that I was assigned male at birth, and then through my own process, I realized that I identified as a woman or a girl. And so I took the steps to transition and to alleviate my dysphoria and my discontent with the way that I was born and the way that society socialized me as male. So I feel like I have a unique perspective on this topic because for 19 years of my life, I was socialized as male, or I was perceived by society as a boy, as a male, and then when I transitioned, society perceived me as a female or a woman. Now, being able to transition and to go through this psychological and societal shift is very much a privilege based on resources, money, and genetics. Because in order for society to perceive you and mirror how you feel on the inside, you have to be able to pass to a certain degree. And what that means exactly is appearing as the gender that you feel like on the inside. So essentially for a trans woman, that could mean getting laser hair removal, that could be getting facial feminization surgery, it could be getting the bottom surgery, it could mean getting lots of other things, wearing makeup, doing your hair a certain way, and these are all privileges that are afforded to us based on how hard we worked to get that money and that coin, based on our income and our families and our support and our resources ultimately. So goes without saying that I feel very lucky to be where I am and to be able to share this experience with you guys. So the first topic that I want to talk about is how in society for men, your accomplishments are very much valued. They kind of make your status in society. So that could be your career, getting a promotion, it could be a project you made or a film you did or something creative you did, and you kind of have this resume in life based off of your accomplishments, which I think to some degree is pretty cool. It's pretty important that people recognize the work that you do and the effort that you put out and what you are talented for, aside from who you are as a person in total. It does make up a small part of you for sure, but I believe that men are a lot more regarded for that, whereas unfortunately women are a lot more regarded for appearance. So I found that a lot of my value after I transitioned was how I looked. If I uploaded a really attractive photo to Instagram, it would get way more likes than if I talked about something I was passionate about. And that's kind of unfortunate, definitely. Definitely there are still standards for men as well. There are still pressures for them to work out and be muscular and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, like having been through both sides, I would say the pressure is a lot more real as a woman. And I would also say that as a trans woman especially, you are a lot more fearful of not looking feminine enough. You're worried that people will clock you, and you are worried that you will be dysphoric each day. So I find that appearance is a lot more valued in women, and I find that the first compliment that women often get is about how they look. People will say, wow, you're so beautiful, I love your hair, I love this about you, and it's all physical, shallow things, whereas men, obviously, people don't always compliment their appearance. You're not going to hear someone say like, wow, I absolutely love the way that your hair is cut today, or I love the, you know what I mean? Like they'll get it maybe right when they get a haircut or right when they wear something new, but it's not an everyday thing. It's not a constant complimenting for them. It's more so about what they did or what they're doing or what they're interested in. So that's an interesting shift I found. And kind of bridging off of that, that kind of goes into your daily routine as well in order to keep up appearances. Living as a boy going through high school and the first half of my university, I had a very simple regimen for self-care, and that consisted of just like washing your hair and your body, making sure your facial hair was trimmed, and also just like moisturizing lightly, and that's more than a lot of guys do anyway. So the regimen was very simple. stressful. There really was not that much I could do in my routine, and so it afforded me a lot more time to focus on tasks, to focus on projects, to get to class faster, and it was just a simpler way of life. So it made my other aspects of life a lot more accessible. Whereas as a girl, you start to reach these standards where, oh, if I don't wear makeup today, then people are gonna think that I look so different and so bad because I wore makeup every other day this week. And the routine is a lot more stressful. It's obviously what you put on yourself, because not every girl has a strict complicated routine, but there is definitely a lot more to it. Women are expected to shave their armpits, shave their legs. Just in society's eyes, like, the idea of an attractive woman or an acceptable woman is a lot more physically tailored than a man. A man is all about status and a woman is all about appearance, which is unfortunate. So I find it can be a little bit stressful, because even when I want to film a YouTube video, sometimes I think, oh, I look kind of rough today. I should blow dry and curl my hair. I should do my makeup. I should completely like refresh myself and all this stuff. And it adds up. Like, it takes away a lot of time out of your life, and it takes away a lot of opportunities where you could be working on a project or you could be getting to class earlier. So all of that stuff is kind of interesting to cope with. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing my hair and makeup, but at a certain point you just want to feel at ease. You don't want to have a complicated routine, and it just depends on your mindset too, because I think as a society we are hopefully moving towards less strict regimens for what's expected of women and their appearances. Another difference that I noticed when I transitioned: before, when I was a boy, I was often expected to do physical tasks and be able to perform, be able to be athletic, or be more so in that category. I remember grade 9 gym class was one of the hardest times in my life, because I had to be in an all-boys gym class and try not to make a fool of myself, and also just try to like blend in, you know? And that was hard, and in order to try to avoid bullying, which actually ended up working for the most part, I just tried to perform athletically, because that is what was so respected, you know? Like, if you could do better than most of the people in your class athletically, then they couldn't talk shit about you, you know? They couldn't call you homophobic slurs, they couldn't say shit, you know? So in that regard, the physical aspect of your lifestyle was very important in being a man or a boy. And then when I transitioned, I found that you were offered a lot of help with physical tasks. So like, even opening the door, I'll notice like men will open the door for me. If I have to lift something heavy, someone will offer to help me carry it. Like, it's a very like strange shift, because I'm the same person that I was before and after. Obviously I look different and I identify as a woman now, and I always did, but now I'm presenting that. And physically, like, stuff has changed from the hormones, but I think I'm pretty capable of doing the same stuff that I did before. And it's just this societal perception that now I'm a woman, so I need help with stuff. And so that can sometimes be really nice. And honestly, I was kind of taken aback the first few times that people offered me help or opened the door for me, because that just like rarely ever happened as a male. And so it was kind of nice. But then you reach a certain point too where you're like, I just want to like carry these 3 cases of wine by myself, and like 5 people will ask you if you want help on your way to the fridge or something, and they're just being nice, so I don't really care. It's not a big deal. But sometimes you just like, yeah, I can do it, like, I'm good, don't worry. Another thing I want to touch on is the fragile sexuality aspect of being male. So in male culture, or man culture, I don't know what you want to call it, anyone deviating from the norm and not acting super straight or having interests that aren't super hetero, their sexuality is always called into question. I noticed that straight men like to use homophobic slurs as insults, even if they don't really mean to hate on gay people. It's just another word for stupid to them, like using the F slur and all that stuff. And I find that there's a lot of pressure on men to be masculine, to be red pill, to be dominant, to be alpha. And if you show signs of being beta, and if you're sensitive and you share your emotions, then you are looked down upon in the hierarchy of male structure. So that's like a really unfortunate problem, and I think that's what causes a lot of pain in gay people growing up, gay men specifically, and trans women, is that there is this standard for them to be masculine, and it's very toxic, and it creates a lot of bullying and conflict. So that causes a lot of problems towards people who are more feminine, and it also just creates a very linear, toxic lifestyle that men are supposed to lead, which is unfortunate. And for women, it's a lot more fluid in a way. I don't have like a huge knowledge on what it was like to grow up and be socialized as a woman, but I would say like now as an adult in the society that we live in, it's a lot more accepted for women to have fluid sexualities and not have their entire identity called into existence, if that makes sense. But I will say there is this weird standard where it's harder to, at least from what I've noticed, it's harder to have platonic relationships with men, because I feel like there is always either a sexual element or there is some kind of divide. Like, I don't know, it's one of those weird things where, especially as a trans woman, you feel kind of out of place when you're in those environments, depending who it's with. But I definitely felt like back when I used to party a lot, I felt like kind of a black sheep in the room, because when I would talk to people or I would talk to guys, just as like a, hi, who are you? How's it going? I could kind of tell like when they knew I was trans and when they didn't, because the way that they acted around me would be a lot different. They were almost threatened by my sexuality, if that makes sense. And so you kind of feel this uncomfortable uneasiness in their presence. And on top of that, it's interesting because growing up as a boy, you were expected to have more friends that were male. And so I was able to hang out with guys easier, even though they weren't the people that I wanted to gravitate towards, because we didn't have a lot of common interests. But we could hang out and no questions asked. Things were simple. Life was easier as a kid. But when I had friends that were girls, it was a little bit more difficult, because like sleepovers were impossible. Like you were always like, I don't know, you were like a player, you know what I mean? Like parents would always try to come up with reasons why all of your friends were girls. And now that I've transitioned and that I'm living as a woman, it's a lot easier to make friends that are women. It's not always the case for people, but I find that it is, as an adult woman now, for me anyways. Like I would say the majority of all my friends are women. I do have some work friends that are guys, but aside from that, I find it difficult to have friends that are men. I don't know. Depends what capacity you're meeting them in, but it's a weird thing. Another topic I want to dive into on the differences between living as a boy versus a girl is the hormonal differences. So I am someone who has been on HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy, for 5 years approximately, and that has completely changed my hormone profile. It has pumped up my estrogen, it has suppressed my testosterone, and made it to that of a cisgender woman. And so my hormones have changed my life pretty drastically in terms of emotions, in terms of sex drive, in terms of fat redistribution, and it really does change the brain chemistry to a certain degree. Hormones are a very important part of your life. So as a male, I found, especially towards sex drive, it was a lot more visual and it was a lot more urgent, if that makes sense. And then as a girl, it's a lot more emotional. It's a lot more about the connection and the attachment. It's more about the foreplay and the person you're with and that kind of stuff. So at least that's my experience. Another difference is wardrobe. Living as a boy, I mainly consisted of sweatpants, jeans, sweater, t-shirt, and sneakers, and maybe a pair of winter boots. And that was basically it. It was pretty simple, it was cost effective, and no one ever really questioned the stuff that I wear. Whereas now as a girl, I find that my wardrobe is so expanded, which personally I love because I get to wear all the stuff that I wanted to wear growing up, but it does get expensive, like heels, strappy sandals, sneakers, boots, high-heeled boots. You have skirts, dresses, bras. you have all sorts of different things, and so it can be pretty expensive. And also I just find that women's outfits are a lot more criticized, whether you're looking too sexual or you're looking too old lady like, or you know what I mean, like people just have an opinion for everything. Whereas with guys, like they could literally show up to class like wearing like basketball shorts and like an old shirt that they slept in, and like people just would not care. It's like lazy chic aesthetic. Whereas for girls, I feel like there's a higher standard for how you're supposed to look. Another thing I want to talk about is social life. So for me, living as a boy growing up, I was obviously very disconnected and dissociated with my body and my experience. And so it kind of limited my social interactions with people. Same with my home life. I had so many siblings and a single mom, so it was hard for me to get rides, places and stuff. So I feel like I was a lone wolf. And I feel like a lot of men are lone wolves. It's a lot less of a emotional support system in the male community. Men are just expected to internalize all their feelings and just kind of be that lone wolf kind of vibe, be hard and rigid and strong, you know? And so I found that I had a lot of issues socializing growing up. I did not have very many friends. I was very much to myself, just focusing on the things I was doing. And I did that for like 19 years, oh my goodness. But when I transitioned and I am now a woman, I found that socializing was a lot easier, and it was almost more expected because you want to like share your friends on social media, you want to have parties, you want to do stuff. So, and that's not the case for everyone, but I just found as a woman it was a lot easier to socialize. It was a lot easier to have sleepovers and to like just hang out with your girlfriends and watch movies and talk about stuff and just have that emotional support when you're going through a breakup or you're going through something tough and horrible. And it was just so nice to have that support network. And unfortunately, I never had that as a male, and I don't think a lot of males do, unfortunately, in our society, and that's something we need to work on, breaking those barriers. The next thing I want to talk about is expenses. So as a boy, my main expenses were electronics, a few clothes, and skincare, I guess, and maybe shampoo or whatever. And so I didn't really have that many expenses, to be honest, so I was able to save money a lot more. For electronics, I got a camera, I got a laptop, and I was able to just focus on those things versus appearance things. So that was like a simpler way of life, I would say. Now, as a woman, there is so many expenses. Obviously my choice as well, but there's nails, there's skincare, there's hair care, there's makeup. Oh my god, so expensive. There's clothes, there's shoes, there's electronics as well. A lot more socializing, like I said, so that means like drinks and food and eating out at nice restaurants. I also had laser hair removal treatment. Not to mention I also had a boob job as well, which was really expensive. And then also furniture. I feel like that's something I could really get into now as a woman without being like judged, you know? It's like super silly in our society. But now I feel like I could buy furniture that I absolutely love and will last me years because it's got a more feminine touch to it, and I feel like it expresses who I am in this moment. So definitely decor and stuff is added to the list of expenses. So in spite of all of the kind of trying negative things that society puts on the gender roles, I would say that I'm a much happier person having transitioned. I'm able to express myself in the things that I'm interested in, and I'm able to be seen for the person I always felt I was on the inside by my friends, by my family, by strangers on the street, and it's really validating to have that experience. It's really nice, and I feel very privileged to be able to live a life where this is possible. And all in all, I hope you guys found this interesting. I tried to touch on a variety of topics from expenses, lifestyle, social life, hormones, all that kind of stuff. If you have any more questions, let me know down below. I hope you found this interesting. I just sometimes like to think about the journey I've been on and try to remember where I was before so that I can appreciate the now so much more. I want to once again thank all my Patreon sponsors, and if you are interested, go follow me on Instagram as well, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!